I don't know, I'm just bringing that up. Okay, so housing is obviously a major issue. Let's talk about public transit. I'm a little bit autistic. I'm an enjoyer of public transit. I haven't been able to enjoy it here because I'm streaming, so there's no Wi-Fi down there.
What about the bus?
Yeah, well, like I said, I've been here for a limited time. So, what are your suggestions for improvement?
I would say the areas are around affordability, reliability, accessibility. Those are some of the major areas, and generally the sense that
how many more cops are we getting in the MTA?
We are not getting more cops.
I lied. I said I was a single issue voter. I'm a double issue voter.
Look, I think what New Yorkers deserve is to be safe, and for too long we've had so-called leaders who've told them the same proposals they've been given year after year, only to end up with the same results. And for safety, we've put together a proposal to create a Department of Community Safety, the DCS, which would protect New Yorkers like never before. And it would do it in ways that we've already seen be proven successful. Things like dedicated outreach teams placed on 100 different subway stations, the ones that have the highest levels of mental health crises, homelessness.
Are they going to play Candy Crush?
They're not going to play Candy Crush.
Okay, well, I feel like that's been working so far. It's been very effective.
They are not going to be playing Candy Crush.
Okay.
And this is going to be paired with, if you grew up in New York City, there are a lot of commercial units that you remember in subway stations. Like, I grew up in New York City. I moved here when I was 7 years old. I first lived in Morningside Heights. I would take the 1 train down to 96th, then take the 2 train down to Times Square. I'd walk up the stairs, down the stairs. There would always be a record store that was selling CDs, headphones. That's at Times Square. That's gone now. It's just a vacant commercial unit. So as part of this proposal, we're going to transform that unit, make it a place where you can receive medical care, connections to long-term care, and in tandem with all those things, invest in transit ambassadors, because a lot of people, the help that they want in the moment is just somebody who can answer a question that they have. What's the delay that they're facing on the subway line that they're trying to take? How can they actually get out? What escalator is working? What elevator is working? This is something that they deserve someone to actually answer those questions who's trained and tasked with those exact responsibilities.
He won't be playing Candy Crush.
No, they will not.
No one is playing Candy
Crush.
I'm confused because I feel like that's what the government, that's what public services are supposed to do at the subway stations with guns. But I guess, are they going to have guns?
These are not going to have guns.
Okay.
But just to your question about public transit, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I love most about being a New Yorker is public transit, that we can get around this city on a bus, on
one
a
of the
bike,
only things, one of the only cities that has well, there's some, but this is the one that has the most.
I mean, 40% of public transit trips in America are from the MTA.
Yeah.
40%. It's all right here across these 5 boroughs and surrounding counties. Yet, we see a lot of New Yorkers being priced out of that. 1 in 5 can't afford a Metro card today. And they're also, if they can afford it, they're sitting on that platform waiting for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And if they're waiting for a bus, I mean, you look at a bus time app on your phone, it says the bus is going to be there in 20 minutes. Sometimes it just never even appears. So these are things that don't actually have to be this way. That's what we're going to do when we make buses fast and free.
How do you reinstill confidence in even local government like that? Because I feel like this is a major hurdle to clear for anyone that is even remotely to the left of, I guess, Donald Trump. When you talk about the government doing something, the government doing right by you, I feel like especially accelerated since the Reagan era, there's this attitude from the average American that there's not really anything that these guys are doing for us. Do you have an attitude? Is it just show your work and hopefully people eventually believe that the subway stations are going to be clean and the buses are going to run on time?
I think you have to show your work. You have to actually deliver it, because the reason people don't believe in government is that they haven't seen it actually impact their lives in a positive way in a long time. And there's one recent example we have in congestion pricing, which was a program that was said to, once implemented, would decrease congestion, would increase bus speeds, would reduce emissions, would raise money for the MTA. And just at the point at which it was about to be implemented, it was at a very low level of popularity, which is the same thing that happened with similar schemes in Stockholm and London. But once it came into effect, you had people who were previously in opposition starting to support it because they could actually experience those tangible benefits. Now, I think that kind of program still needs to be paired with more immediate investments in public transit service. And that's what I've been fighting for in Albany as a state legislator.
So you don't want the bridge and tunnel crowd around these parts. That's what I'm getting. Okay. One thing that I feel like you do differently than a lot of other politicians is you talk about the underlying reasons as to why crime persists. When you talk about homelessness, you understand that a big part of that is housing. As a matter of fact, the major role that it plays in accelerating homelessness. When talking about crime, your initiatives focus on also solving the underlying material inequalities where crime manifests. What are some of the initiatives that you want to take in that regard, in terms of like you've suggested cooperative grocery stores?
Yeah, I mean, we are living in a city where so many New Yorkers are being priced out of produce. And it doesn't matter how much they earn, they feel this sticker shock when they go to the grocery store. And we have that in tandem with food deserts, which are something that disproportionately impacts Black and Latino New Yorkers. I represent Queensbridge Houses, the largest public housing development in North America. And when I speak to my constituents at Queensbridge, I'm asked this question: why is it that there are 6 fast food restaurants in a 5-block radius, but the only place I can buy produce is clearly old and outdated and not the kind of food that is fit for my family to eat? And I don't have an answer to that. And this is now starting to answer that question, which is that if it can work in Kansas, if a feasibility study in Chicago found this to be doable, why in New York City are we allowing people to be priced out of bread and milk and eggs when we can actually guarantee cheaper prices, especially at a time when we're seeing these prices skyrocket even more thanks to Donald Trump's economic policy?
Yeah. What about Twinkies? Are they going to still have Twinkies at the cooperative grocery stores?
Yeah, thanks to you now, we can say there are going to be some Twinkies.
I lied. I'm a triple issue voter. Not even a single issue.
By the end of today, we got 10.
Okay.
10 issues coming out.
All right, so Twinkies in the cooperative grocery stores. How does that structure work?
The Twinkies in the cooperative?
No. Just
okay. It's like,
sometimes I'm joking, sometimes I'm being serious. How does the cooperative grocery structure work?
So
Those of you at home that may not be familiar.
So the idea of a municipal-owned grocery store, our proposal is a pilot of 1 in each borough that would be city-run, that would guarantee cheaper groceries in a few ways. The first is that it would not have to pay rent or property taxes as a city-owned institution, pass those savings directly on to the customer. The second is that it would not be mandated to have to make a profit in these moments. We've seen that in Kansas it is profitable, but also there are times where you will see the avian flu is jacking up the cost of eggs to a level that New Yorkers can't even afford. It is possible for us to absorb some of those costs to ensure that people can actually buy the eggs that they need. And additionally, we would purchase at wholesale prices and then pass that on to New Yorkers. Now, this is a pilot program that would cost $60 million, which sounds like a substantial amount of money. Maybe
not for New York.
Not for New York City.
Yeah.
I would compare it to the more than 100...
It's like one New York Police Department submarine. You know, it's the submarine upkeep. You're not using the sub.
Allegedly.
Is that alleged? I thought they had one.
I'm leaving that to you. That's your number 4 policy platform.
Okay. I want to see the submarine. Yeah. That's my 4th policy.
But right now, we're already set to spend $140 million subsidizing corporate grocery stores. It's a program in the city called City Fresh. They don't guarantee cheaper prices. They don't guarantee a unionized workforce. They are not required to accept SNAP or WIC, and they've been shown no impact on actual pricing.
They don't even have SNAP?
They don't have to accept it.
They don't have to accept it? That's
and
crazy.
so we would spend less than half of that money on guaranteeing the whole kinds of needs that New Yorkers have that are currently not being met by this program.
And there would be workers at these locations as well?
Unionized workforce.
Unionized workforce?
Yeah. And this would be a pilot program, start with 1 in each borough. And what we're already hearing from New Yorkers is that they can't wait for this because, as we've seen in a poll, it is a majority of New Yorkers who want this. And I think even a majority of Republicans.